Hey guys, what's up? It's Charlie here, and today we're going to be looking at 10 news anchors you won't believe exist. Coming in at number 10, we have Chicken Run. This news report is coming from Australia and involves an animal, but it's not something like a giant spider or a kangaroo. No, instead, the troublemaker in this news report is a chicken. One news reporter was doing a report on a chicken show happening in Sydney, Australia. He thought it would be more interesting if he held one of the chickens while reporting on the story, but as he's reporting live on air, he startles the bird, causing it to flap wildly in his hands. He doesn't exactly recover gracefully and instead runs away screaming like a madman. Some thought this was a joke at first, but the reporter later confirmed he just really doesn't like chickens.
Big black Australorp cockerel, one of 500 birds that are being judged today at the show.
Yeah, I think I'll stick to chicken in a bucket instead of alive in my hands. Next up is bugging out. This news report happened 9 years ago, but despite it being a little old, it went viral and boosted the news reporter to online fame. Back in 2008, a news reporter for News 4 was doing a very serious report on an unsolved passing of a high school student. But as he's wrapping up his report, a bug flies directly into his mouth. This causes him to go on a verbal rampage, ranting and raving about the country town he was in. And he also gets very angry about the pollen, which keeps going in his eye, causing him to cry. He made a noise that sounded like Donald Duck when the fly entered his mouth. And then he changed from a calm and collected person to someone who loves to rant. This man's been nicknamed Ghetto News Reporter online, and many people find this clip absolutely hilarious. If this guy shows us anything, it's that underneath all that makeup and expensive suits, newscasters are just regular angry people like you and I deep down. Next up is McNews. We've already seen 2 news reporter fails, but you could argue it wasn't their fault, it was the bug and the chicken's fault. Bug, chicken, you're fired. But in this instance, the news reporter is almost 100% to blame. On one Fox News broadcast, a female reporter in the studio announced they were going to Jimmy for a traffic report. But instead of cutting to Jimmy reporting on traffic, we see Jimmy sitting in a McDonald's drive-in. You might think he'd be embarrassed or apologetic getting caught at McDonald's, but instead he goes on to say he's been in the car since 4 AM. He then proceeds to make a very complicated order while the woman in the studio is literally speechless. Jimmy even says, "Don't tell my boss I did this," but seeing as this clip went viral, I don't think that'll do much good. Here's the clip.
They're from Pennsylvania, now down through Towson. Hi, Jimmy. What's the latest?
Hello. Please hold forward to the next speaker.
Hey, is it too early to get a fish sandwich? Go
All right.
Second time.
I told you we were coming to you.
Next up is Susanna Almeida. In the USA, we have news reporters like Anderson Cooper and Bill O'Reilly. Well, not Bill O'Reilly anymore, but you get what I mean. However, if you head over to Mexico, you get news reporters like Susanna Almeida. The reason why this woman made it onto the list is because despite being in Mexico, she went viral all over the world back in 2016. This was because she was called the hottest news reporter in the world. She already has tens of thousands of followers on her Instagram. But in late 2016, she had a serious wardrobe malfunction that I can't even show on here. Anyway, suffice to say that made her go viral again, and now she has almost 100,000 followers. They say the camera adds £10, but Susanna looks great in every broadcast. And I bet some people aren't really interested in the news and simply watch it for Susanna. Some criticize her for wearing too much makeup and wearing stylish clothing, but the viewers love it. Do you think that Susanna's beauty takes away from actual news, or do you support Susanna? Looking at her mega fans on Instagram, it's safe to say that most people in Mexico and many other countries like Susanna just the way she is. Next up is hair and makeup. Hair and makeup is often overlooked, but it's an essential part of any news broadcast. And some people even make jokes about how much news anchors obsess over looking the part. However, this is usually all done behind the scenes. But in 2015, during a morning news broadcast, one news reporter thought she wasn't live for a few more minutes. She had her handbag on the news desk and began brushing her hair. Somebody then told her in her earpiece that she was live on air and she had to do the news report with her handbag still on the desk. The reporter named Carol Walker looked very embarrassed when she realized she'd been styling her hair live on TV at one of the busiest news-watching times. But don't worry, Carol was not fired for this and is still a very respected BBC News anchor. But even if she was fired, on the bright side, at least her hair's looking great. Here's the clip.
This is BBC News. I'm Carol Walker. The headlines at 9. The government starts selling off its stake in...
Next up is Bat. We've already seen animals mess up live news reports on this list, but these were on location, not actually in the studio. Well, during one broadcast from ABC 6 News, a bat actually entered the studio where the news was being filmed live. Unsurprisingly, the anchors all freaked out, which led to the viewers at home laughing their heads off. News anchors have to deal with a lot of annoying things like prank calls and people sabotaging their reports. But one thing they don't see every day is bats flying overhead scaring them. I'm not sure if ABC News is filmed in an underground cave or something, but it looks like they need to get pest control in there. Apparently the open environment of the studio makes it very easy for bats to enter, and this isn't the first time a bat's come in. However, this was the first time a bat's actually invaded a broadcast. Here is the hilarious clip.
Did you see it? There it is again. The bat caused chaos as we kicked off the 6 o'clock hour of Good Morning Tennessee.
Out of nowhere.
Next up is Locked Out. We've already seen one news reporter who made a big mistake when it came to reporting from a car. Well, at least the McDonald's guy was inside his car when the cameras cut to him. During a WUSA 9 broadcast, reporter Scott Broom got locked out of his car that they call the mobile newsroom. Yeah, not so mobile anymore. He got out of the car to get the frost off the windows, but was then locked out and had to report through a window. The desperate reporter was seen outside his car shouting for help while the news anchor sent a guy with a key to rescue him. But a little while later, a cop showed up with a wrench and popped open the car door. Scott, and probably the viewers too, celebrated as he was finally no longer locked outside in the freezing cold. It really looks like cars and news reporting aren't a good mix. Here's the clip.
Help! Oh, this is so bad. Help!
But he's for real locked out, and the car is running right now.
And Patrick O'John, comes Patrick, hang on, he's getting it. Wait. Oh! Whoa!
Next up is Suspect. You know in movies when a wanted criminal enters a store and sees their own wanted photo on the wall? Well, this is pretty much the real life equivalent to that, except it happened to a news anchor live on air. This happened back in the 90s, but it's so hilarious I had to include it on this list. One reporter was reporting on a robbery in the local area. As you know, to try and catch the robber or any other criminal for that matter, the news includes a police sketch. However, in this unfortunate news report, the sketch just so happened to look exactly like the man reporting the crime. And believe it or not, this is not the only time this has happened. Once before, a reporter was showing a different police sketch and it looked exactly like him. I don't know what the producers were thinking when they picked these anchors to do these stories. Well, maybe they thought it would go viral and make them get better ratings. That is pure evil genius. Next up is Weatherboy. In 2017, this piece of footage from Fox 5 News went viral. A reporter was doing a story on fireworks for the 4th of July. He saw a kid who happened to be standing outside of the fireworks store and asked him what's the best kind of firework to buy. And then the kid responds, "Wouldn't you like to know, Weatherboy?" The news anchor gets seriously annoyed and says, "Where are your parents?" He then calls the kid sketchy to the people back at the studio who are laughing it up. Is it just me, or does this kid sound like every bully in a kid's movie ever? Funny thing about this video is it's so random to have a kid standing out there doing nothing. Just the look on the reporter's face alone is enough to make you laugh out loud, so without further ado, here's the clip.
And then the 4th of July, here's an actual customer out here. What's the best kind of firework to buy?
Wouldn't you like to know, Weatherboy?
Where are your parents? Kid's sketchy. Back to you guys.
Next up is grape stomping. This is one of the most viral news reporting clips of all time. It's been viewed millions of times and has even been recreated on Family Guy. A news reporter for Fox 5 is stomping on grapes at a vineyard and has a stomping competition with the vineyard owner. They begin stomping the grapes when all of a sudden the news reporter tries to cheat by shouting "stop." But this backfires as she falls over the decking. She then starts moaning and creating a very awkward situation. But the funniest thing about this is the news anchors in the studio who say, "Oh, we'll have to send somebody to check on her." I'm just surprised and kind of impressed they stopped themselves laughing at this. If you think I'm being mean, just watch this clip and get ready to laugh it up.
Come and spend the day listening to live music, eating international foods, having wine tours and tastings, vineyard tours, seminars, arts and crafts. It's a lot of fun, a whole day. Stop. Oh, 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 I can't, ow, 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 oh, stop, oh, stop, oh, 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 I can't breathe, stop,
Oh, no, oh,
boy,
dear.
I think she's actually hurt.
No,
there.
I think she is.
Yeah, she's
Ouch.
hurt. She took a hard fall off there.
Okay.
Boy, gosh, I hope she's okay.
Okay, we're gonna make sure she is.
We'll try and
Gus
check
is
on
there.
her and get back
All
to you
right.
as soon as we can.
We'll be back right after this.
OJ's car chase. We all know the confusing and scandalous story behind OJ Simpson. He was accused of taking the life of his ex-wife and her new boyfriend. But back before the infamous not guilty court verdict, which is another unforgettable moment caught on TV itself, he wasn't sure he was going to be a free man. He went off the handlebars one day and got into a Bronco pickup truck before racing off. Police thought he was running away, so they chased him, causing a massive, long, televised car chase. Domino's reported record sales because people ordered pizza as they didn't want to leave their TV. It was like a real-life movie playing out before our eyes. Every news station picked up the story, even ESPN reported it live. He was later caught and said he wasn't trying to flee, but he was found with some items which may suggest he was lying. He had thousands of dollars in cash, a pistol, a passport, and a fake goatee and mustache. This is one television event that shook the world, and everyone who watched it remembers it vividly, especially those who were also following the tense and lengthy court case. Next up is I'ma Let You Finish. We all remember it. Taylor Swift was getting an award.
I'll let you finish.
Hey, don't interrupt, Kanye. Anyway, that's what Kanye did to Taylor Swift. She had just won a VMA for the Best Female Video. But Kanye had other ideas. He jumped up on stage, grabbed the microphone, and told Taylor he would let her finish, but he thought Beyoncé's video was way better. He was booed at the live event, and by many who watched this on TV. It's safe to say everyone who was watching was shocked, and remembers the night this happened. It led to a lot of backlash for Kanye, with even Barack Obama calling him a jackass. It has since gone down as one of the most surprising and memorable things to happen live on television. Kanye sure did make a performance that night, just not a musical one. Next up we have Olympian Kiss. The Olympics is one of the most memorable and famous events broadcast on live TV. There's many different sports being broadcast around the clock. But at the 2008 Beijing Olympics, the female gymnasts event raised a few eyebrows. This is because one Russian gymnast named Ksenia Ryzova kissed a fellow Russian gymnast, Tatiana Ferova. Some people were shocked by this, and the Olympics actually received many complaints, while others were fine and assumed it was a European custom. But it was actually to promote global equality, especially in Russia, who have a bad reputation for this. It became a media circus, and the press was all over the story. Whatever your opinions are on the kiss, it went down as one of the most famous Olympic moments of that year, and it sure is an unforgettable moment caught on live TV. Next up is Madonna's VMA controversy. Madonna is not an artist to shy away from controversy, but her 2003 VMA performance was on another level. Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera emerged in bridal gowns, singing Madonna's classic tune to everyone's excitement. Then all of a sudden, Madonna herself climbed out of a giant cake, and then all of the women began making out. This shocked millions of people watching at home, not to mention the star-studded crowd at the VMAs who had very mixed responses. Just look at Justin Timberlake as he watches his ex-girlfriend Lindsay Lohan make out with other singers. This later caused a lot of tension in the media and caused so many people to freak out. And from the looks of the audience's reactions, which were also filmed alongside the performance, people were divided by this. Some were laughing and taking it as a joke, while others did not look happy and sometimes downright upset. It has since gone down as one of the most famous moments in pop culture and VMA history. Next up is camera fall. Reporting news live can be stressful for the anchors. There is no allowance for mistakes, and the slightest mistake could ruin your career. And this is also the case for live weather reports. The whole town tunes in to see what tomorrow will bring weather-wise. But in one report coming from Denver, Colorado, things didn't go as planned. The camera fell down during the weather, and then the weather woman went crazy. She began dancing and singing as the camera was showing her feet. She then crawled onto the floor and continued giving the forecast. Afterwards, she crawled away while her whole news team was laughing. Let's be honest, how could they not? This woman's clip went viral, and she is now known as the Dancing Weather Woman. This meant that even people outside of Denver, Colorado could see the insane live TV moment, meaning this is one unforgettable TV occurrence. Was this great improvisation or an over-energetic weather woman? One thing's for sure, it was entertaining, and she's a pretty good dancer too.
Park. Look at this beautiful shot this afternoon. You can, wow! Yeah, 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 it's gonna be kind of cold. You have a good one.
Next up is Man on the Moon. It's one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind. Those were the words that stunned the world, and is associated with one of mankind's greatest achievements, landing on the moon. In 1969, 600 million people watched as Neil Armstrong landed on the moon. It was one of the biggest broadcasts ever, with the second highest viewing figures, falling short of 150 million people compared to the Prince of Wales and Princess Diana's wedding. But it was still a massive event that united the world and made new leaps in space exploration. If you're old enough to have watched it, you may remember the excitement of the day. Some people didn't believe it was real, especially older people, as going into space was such a bizarre concept for them. People's jaws dropped as the US flag was planted on the moon and the famous words were spoken. The Apollo 11 mission has gone down in history as one of the most amazing live television broadcasts ever. Next up we have Locked Out. We all make mistakes at work, But they're not always as big a blunder as this news anchor's mistake and misfortune. He got out of his car to clean the frost from his windows when suddenly his car door locked. He was then stuck outside his car in the snow, forced to do his news report from outside his car. He then called for help and the news station sent someone out to open the door. This blunder didn't get him into any trouble, and his co-hosts were laughing hysterically as he was stuck outside in the cold. It's a mistake we could all make, but thankfully most of us aren't news reporters. And luckily for the man, he wasn't too far from the studio. This news report is not only memorable for those watching live, but the internet too, as a clip was posted online. And I'm sure this is the most memorable broadcast this guy ever did. He seems quite upbeat about it though, so at least he was a good sport.
So bad. Help.
And somehow the door locked. I'm in Laurel by the Target store off 202. Door open. Here comes Patrick. Hang on. He's getting it. Wait. Oh! Wow!
Next up is Balloon Boy. This is one news story that shook the world. In 2009, a story from Colorado was reported live. A boy was stuck in a gas balloon after his parents let it go. The media began to chase the balloon in their helicopters and made it into a massive event. After a 50-mile flight that lasted 1 hour, the balloon landed in Denver International Airport. Police and airport officials rushed to the balloon, but to their surprise, the boy wasn't in the balloon. They sent hordes of police to find the missing boy, who they feared had fallen out. They searched everywhere, costing a lot of money and resources. But eventually the couple admitted it was all a hoax. They were sent to jail for 20 days and were made to pay $36,000 in fines. Although it likely cost a lot more to pull off this stunt. It has since gone down as an unforgettable TV moment, and later adapted into a musical comedy named Balloon Boy the Musical by Billy Reese. Next up is the best weatherman in the world. We all can't pronounce some words, especially those in other languages. They can be tough, but one language which is very hard to pronounce is Welsh. This is because they have far less letters, meaning odd pairs of letters are often used in words, and the words can sometimes be very long. So, what happens when you have to say the world's largest place name on a weather broadcast? Well, if you're as good as Channel 4 weatherman Liam Dutton, nothing. He said a 58-letter place name and nailed it first time. He looks very pleased with his accomplishment, and rightly so. He totally pulled it off, which is an amazing talent. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the town name, but I will play you this clip so you can be stunned too.
Just up the road from Llanfair to Pwllgwyngyll, go get a Quindrobwll, Llantysilio, go. The temperature got to 21 Celsius.
And coming up next, we have Hungry News Anchor. This is one news mishap where I wouldn't be surprised if the guy involved got fired. One news reporter was out working at 4 AM. When it got to 7 AM, he was on, but he hadn't eaten breakfast yet. He was caught on camera in his car in the McDonald's drive-thru line. But instead of ignoring the food and doing the news report, he asked viewers to wait a minute as he was hungry. He tried to order some food, but he was told he had to order breakfast instead. This made for one very lengthy shot of him ordering food and totally ignoring the news. He told everyone not to tell his boss that he did this. But the clip went viral, so I wouldn't be surprised if he found out anyway. We all get hungry at work, but this guy really left his co-hosts and probably the viewers speechless.
Oh, Candace, we live? Whoops. Hey, I've been in the car since 4 o'clock. I'm starving. I'm just getting something real quick. Hey, it's too early to get a fish sandwich?
Okay, well.
Can I help you? Yeah, can I get a fish sandwich?
We're on breakfast right now.
Breakfast? All right, give me a second time.
Have heat behind you. When you're doing a live news report, the pressure is on to get everything right. Thanks to this, your head usually needs to be in the game and you have to focus on what's going on. However, this can mean you're distracted from anything else that may be going on around you, which can be the downfall of some news reporters. Nobody knows that better than Wendy Birch of Los Angeles. She was doing a traffic report about the LA traffic and it was all going fine as she was reading off the facts and figures. However, midway through the report, a man creeps up behind her to get on camera. She soon notices and freaks out, screaming and running away. She was very embarrassed and startled and even swore live on TV saying, "You scared the shit out of me." The man was laughing at his prank and she was laughing out of embarrassment at her extreme reaction. The final words from the cameraman say, "Hey, we're working here," before it cuts back to the studio. That is one news report neither Wendy nor Los Angeles viewers are likely to forget. I can't tell if the man is annoying and getting in the way or a hilarious genius. Watch the clip and tell me what you think.
Likely one of those international cities might... No!
We're working here, man.
Next up is Lumberjack. One news reporter was at a local timber sports fair which involves sports that use wood. They had banned food, drinks, and various activities related to timber sports. Like many news reporters, they decided to do the activities available to the public. However, as I said, being on the news can put people under pressure, and we all know what happens when we're under pressure. This news reporter named Pete decided to do the lumberjack axe throw, which was a competition. Another news anchor named Clayton had gone before him and got a bullseye, but Pete seemed to be aiming for a different target. His axe flew right over the target completely and hit a band member's drum who happened to be playing right by the target. The band member wasn't hurt at all, but he was surprised and his drum was broken. I can't tell if this is the fair's fault for not having a barrier, but perhaps they didn't think anyone would have such bad aim. Just remember guys, if you're playing the drums, be sure not to do it near flying axes. Do you think you could do better than this news reporter? Watch the clip and see.
Who's gonna win this battle with the lumberjack? That comes out next. I'm putting...
Next up is Cough It Up. Let me ask you a simple question. Do you want to be a millionaire? Assuming the answer is yes, then there's many ways to do this. Hard work, dedication, persistence. Or you could just appear on the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's very hard to win the million on the show even if you're a genius. That is why people were shocked when one really dumb guy named Chris Ingram got near to the million mark in 2001 before he was stopped. You see, this man didn't research any trivia, but his wife did have a book of trivia and a cell phone. He had a sneaky method of reading the answers aloud and then his wife would cough when he said the right one. He did this until he reached about $400,000, but then his plan was uncovered and he was promptly kicked off the show. Had this guy's plan worked out, he could have easily walked away a fraudulent millionaire. However, it must have been a very embarrassing moment when he was caught cheating on a game show in front of everyone, as it was still broadcast despite his cheating. Here's some of the coughs to show just how obvious him and his wife's cheating really was. Next up is boats. So we've had some mishaps with clumsy news anchors already. We know it's not a good idea to give them axes, but how do they fare on boats? Spoiler alert, not well. This is a Dutch reporter who is interviewing the mayor of a Dutch town on live television. She attempts to casually lean on the boat but somehow falls off. The mayor leaps into action, taking his giant chain off and trying to rescue her. Now that is a great political move. However, he soon decides against jumping in and throws a ring at her instead. The sound technician is also quick to jump in and make sure we get the action and embarrassment live on TV. This has gone down as one of the biggest fails on TV ever. But don't worry, the news reporter named Claudia was fine and didn't lose her job for this blunder of an interview.
Steden in de IJsseldelta. Want hier wordt binnenkort het grootste paasevenement van Nederland georganiseerd. Zeilkampen. Burgemeester, wat is er nou zo bijzonder aan zeilkampen?
Als je de mooiste...
Jongens, dat gaat niet goed. Deze kant op. Nee. Probeer.
Next up we have Hamburglar. This is one where a news reporter gets roasted live on air. But not by some guy in the background or a heckler, but by her own fellow news anchor. One man was signing off his news report and was passing it on to his co-host. He says, now the news. For that, the Hamburglar. The joke isn't clear at first, but it then cuts to one angry lady wearing a black and white striped shirt. In case you don't get it, the Hamburglar was a McDonald's mascot that used to wear a typical black and white striped burglar shirt. She didn't know whether to laugh or be mad, and eventually says she'll let it pass seeing as it's his birthday. But later says she'll get him back. I don't know if that means she's gonna steal his hamburgers, but this woman did really take it well, especially live on air. One thing's for sure, she won't be wearing that shirt to work ever again. This is one funny clip that'll put a smile on your face no matter what.
Time once again to get you caught up on your news headlines. For that, the Hamburglar.
It's your birthday, I'll let it pass. No, I won't. I'll get you later.
Next up is Fall. This clip is very short, only a few seconds, but I'm sure it led to hours, if not days of embarrassment. We all know it's embarrassing to fall over whether you're walking down the street or collecting an award. However, it's also pretty bad when you're live on TV news. One female anchor was reporting on the traffic and was showing there was a fast traffic flow southbound. However, as she turns to point at the road, she falls off her podium onto the floor. If you listen out closely, you'll hear the camera guy yell, "Oh!" She falls onto the floor. The funniest thing is she actually continues with her report, saying that the average speed is 43 miles an hour. At least she professionally finished off the job, but she needs to stop wearing those heels, otherwise she could be in for more falls. The news reporter was fine afterwards, but I can imagine it was a little awkward that day, especially with wardrobe for giving her the heels and the set management who positioned her podium.
From Carmel, if you're using US 31 southbound, your average speed
is 43 miles.
Next up is Chicken Run. This is an Australian news report of a chicken show that was going on in New South Wales. We all know Australia is known for dangerous animals, so we'd all assume an Australian would cope fine with a chicken. But despite this, one news anchor took it less than well when he was given a chicken to hold during a live news report. He was describing the large chicken when suddenly it began flapping. The man was then so terrified he ran away screaming with his hands in the air. Some people thought he was overreacting as some kind of joke, but he later admitted he just really doesn't like chickens. Yeah, probably best not to send a guy who's terrified of chickens to a chicken show. You can actually hear the guy behind the camera cracking up at how scared this guy got. But don't worry, no chickens were harmed in this footage, and only news reporters were harmed by the embarrassment of this clip.
Big black Australop cockerel, one of 500 birds that are being judged today at the show.
Next up is laughter. This one is coming from Chris Brown. No, not the rapper. The WWAY3 news reporter, of course. He was presenting a simple story about a boat, but for whatever reason he just couldn't stop laughing. The story seemed pretty mundane, but for some reason he was cracking up. I'm pretty sure he'd seen something off camera because he just couldn't contain himself. He began snorting with laughter, and they even had to cut to a shot of some boats to allow him to try and stop. In the end though, Chris Brown just couldn't stop laughing, and I bet the viewers at home couldn't too. They had to cut his story short, but luckily we still have this clip.
Daniel, charter boat captains said the new restrictions would just be too much, but Marine Fisheries Commission members, don't agree. The new restrictions would come in the form of a law.
Next up is wrong language. This one is coming from a Mexican news station. In case you didn't know, Mexican weather reporters are known for being very attractive. They're usually female and wear dresses you might wear on a night out. However, no matter how good you look, mistakes can still be made when it comes to reporting. This weather girl must have thought she was in America for some reason as she began to speak English as she signed off her report. She said thank you for in English instead of Spanish, and the entire crew laughed. She then quickly said thank you and goodbye in Spanish after realizing her mistake. Here's the funny clip.
Thank you, Fer. Muy buenos días.
Next up is B. One day a news reporter was doing his job as normal, reporting on a sunny day they were having by the beach. He just went live when suddenly a big bee flew right by him. Now many people try to avoid bees to not get stung by them, but this man has clearly had some bad experience with bees in the past. That is because he screamed and ran away as soon as he saw the bee come near. Sure, it was a large bee, but he overreacted and he soon realized this. He awkwardly said that's what happens when it's hot as soon as he realized he probably looked like kind of a wimp. He then asked, are we live? And of course they were, probably leading to a lot of embarrassment. Oh, and a few bee-related jokes back at the office.
What is up? That's because it's hot outside. Stuff like that happens. Was that live?
Next up is cat. Just when you thought animals were done messing with news reporters, here comes a cat. This news station was doing a segment they call Animal of the Week. This is where an animal expert comes in to show off an animal to the hosts and viewership. Why they chose cat, the most common animal ever, I don't know, but this kitty sure does have some claws. As one news anchor was holding the cat, it grabs her hair and nearly scratches her too. The cat had to be taken back by the handler, and I'm pretty sure he was less than impressed with his feline friend. The news anchor was fine, if not a little scratched and embarrassed.
You had to get out of here because of that. Oh, sweetheart. Oh my goodness, he just got a little antsy there.
Check out the poll in the top right corner to vote for the most embarrassing TV moment on this list. And guys, check out my second channel, The Crafty. There'll be a video for The Crafty coming up on screen in a second, so click it and please do subscribe as well. And as always, thanks for watching. Check out some more videos on screen right now. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to Top 10s for new videos every day.